Oh, hey there. Good afternoon. 4:06 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up, Cheryl Chumley joins us this hour from the Washington Times. We talked to her about the Democrats yelling freedom at the convention, what they really mean by that. And Ryan Gordusky joins us at 5 o'clock as RFK Jr. is getting ready to jump out of the presidential race. Will he endorse Trump, and what difference will it make? We'll ask Ryan. You can join us 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. President Trump is still speaking, Cochise County, Arizona, on the border, where you can see the border wall that he constructed and the border wall that Kamala Harris refused to put up, that Biden and Harris refused to put up, that's just laying right next to portions of already assembled wall from the Trump era. President Trump just moments ago brought up a very important Supreme Court decision today. Take a listen here.
I do have some good news, though, for the people standing behind me in particular, and maybe for some of the press that wants to hear good things. The Supreme Court just ruled that you're not allowed to have illegal aliens vote. Just came out just before I walked up. So illegal aliens are officially not allowed to vote in our country. And I give great credit to the Supreme Court. They have great courage in doing what they're doing. It's not easy, but that was one that everybody was hoping for. You know, a vast majority of people agree with that. It's a very small amount of people that don't. Who would?
Who would want to steal our elections? Nancy Pelosi raises her hand. Here's the report here from, as our buddy Chris Plant calls it, National Panhandler Radio. Supreme Court grants GOP bid to require citizenship proof, that is, for some Arizona voters. The U.S. Supreme Court is allowing Arizona to enforce, for now, part of a new state law that requires election officials to reject any state voter registration forms that are submitted without the applicant's proof of U.S. citizenship. Well, yeah, if it's a law, then, why is anyone getting in the way of it to begin with? This is such common sense. You have to prove you're a citizen in order to register to vote. The High Court, however, has rejected the Republican National Committee's request to block what could have been tens of thousands of registered voters in Arizona from voting in this fall's presidential election. The High Court's order, released Thursday, is a part of a legal fight over voter registration requirements in the key swing state, where in 2020, President Biden defeated former President Donald Trump with just over 10,000 votes. 10,000 vote differential. They say this comes amid a close presidential election. Let's see here. Arizona has a complicated two-track system for registering voters, which stems from a decades-long dispute over the need for proof of citizenship. State law requires showing documentary proof when registering to vote in state and local elections. But for federal elections, the Supreme Court ruled in 2013 that the state had to accept and use a standard federal form required by the National Voter Registration Act. That form does not require proof, but calls for applicants to swear under penalty of perjury that they are U.S. citizens. In 2022, however, Arizona's Republican-controlled legislature passed a new law that bans registered voters who have not provided proof of their citizenship from voting in presidential elections or by mail for any federal office. So that's what's the dispute is over. So for now, it looks like the United States Supreme Court is saying, yeah, Arizona can enforce a requirement that you demonstrate that you are a U.S. citizen when you attempt to register to vote in our federal elections. That seems common sense. That's a no-brainer. Do non-citizens ever register to vote? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Just ask Virginia, where the state government just ejected over 6,000 foreign nationals who are improperly registered to vote, illegally registered to vote in the state of Virginia. They just did that. So yes, it happens. In one state, thousands of times at least. Just imagine what it's like all across the country. Arizona, a pivotal state, a 10,000 vote differential in 2020. So that's a meaningful win for election integrity today. That matters a great deal. So President Trump just bringing that up. Let me check back in with his remarks here.
Want that. So thank you very much. And she's really provided Harris deportation immunity to the vast majority of criminal aliens living inside the United States. They've got immunity. They really have immunity. and importing MS-13 directly into our cities. MS-13 is the most vicious gang we feel. If I ask the sheriffs behind me, I think probably considered the most vicious gangs in the world. Wouldn't you say, Brandon? It's never seen anything like it. It's not even believable. I won't tell you about it. It's not even believable.
Well, they worship the
As
devil.
the DA of San Francisco.
That's the whole thing.
Kamala Harris.
MS-13, they're devil worshippers, just to give you a sense of how vile they are.
Harris was the godmother of deadly sanctuary cities. She was considered the godmother. All they're doing is protecting criminals, which set loose illegal alien criminals rather than hand them over to ICE, who are doing an incredible job. Under a program Kamala set up, an illegal alien arrested on drug charges in 2008 was set free to enjoy job training. A short time later, that same illegal alien attacked a 29-year-old beautiful young woman, Amanda Kiefer, stealing her purse and fracturing Amanda's skull. It was vicious and horrible, and Amanda's here with us, and I'd love to have Amanda come up and say a few words. Thank you.
Let's hear from Amanda. You're not going to hear from her at the Democrat convention. Here she is.
Hi, I'm Amanda Kiefer. I don't feel like I belong on the stage with the folks here since I seem to have gotten off kind of easy with just a fractured skull. I didn't lose loved ones, but the night I was walking to dinner in Pacific Heights, it was a nice neighborhood. You wouldn't expect broad daylight for something violent to happen to you on the way to dinner. My purse was stolen, and I stepped into the street, and the car he jumped into came at me. I jumped up on the hood to avoid getting run over, and he floored it and hit the brakes. The police were great. They had caught him and his accomplice in a really short time, because I remember being on a gurney in the hallway of the hospital, and I had to ID them. They were laughing as they fractured my skull. What was really the worst part about it all, though, is when I found out that taxpayer money was paying for job training for this guy who avoided going to prison for the first felony he committed for jobs he couldn't legally hold. It was kind of a wake-up moment for me, and I moved out of San Francisco because I didn't feel safe there. And I don't think our country is going to be safe under Kamala Harris.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's President Trump. So that's what a story. So she had to deal with that awful thing that happened to her because of the decision making of the Democrats there, and just really awful, stuff. Let's see. I've got on the phone, calling from Georgia. Anna is calling on line 3. Anna, good afternoon. You are on the Vince Coglianese Show. You went to an interesting rally today, Anna.
Yes, I did. JD Vance was here in Valdosta today, and we found out about it day before yesterday and decided that we were going to go. Me and a friend of mine went there, and he gave a great speech. And he's very articulate, as you know. He was specifically down here to give attention to the fentanyl poisoning that's going on with all the fentanyl that's coming over the border, because you might know that they found, I don't even know how much, but it was an enormous amount of fentanyl in a truck at the farmer's market up in Atlanta. And where we live, I-75 is the big, north-south corridor here. Mm-hmm. We have tons of truck traffic and interstate traffic. And so there can be a lot of bad things that happen here. And so he met at the sheriff's department. And I wanted to tell you, he was introduced by a former sheriff who was a Democrat. And that Democrat put full-throated support behind Trump and JD Vance because of what he's seeing go on in the country, which I thought was really interesting. And then also JD Vance talked about the border. there were reporters there, okay, and by the way, JD Vance took questions, and JD Vance spoke extemporaneously. I watched him walk out. He was within a few feet of me, and he didn't have any paper, and he did not have any teleprompters, and he spoke right off the top of his head, and he answered the reporters' questions, which Kamala Harris needs to do. You know, she needs to get out there and she needs to answer questions. And I know that I used to live up there in the D.C. area, and I know there's a lot of Democrats up there. And if you think that this is okay, you're being duped and disrespected, and you deserve better. But he was asked a question about what does Valdosta have to do with the border? And he gave a wonderful answer, and I thought to myself, I was like, you know, basically the idea is that we're all border states. I work with an organization that is a not-for-profit. All of our services are for free, and I know firsthand right here in little old Valdosta, Georgia, that we are getting people who are coming across the border and they're illegals. We work with people who are coming in and they don't speak English, and their only form of ID is a passport or an identification card from whatever country that they came from. And so this is a problem for everybody, as well as the poisoning of our nation. But it was very exciting to see him. We did bring our books, Hillbilly LG books, because we were hoping against hope that he would sign our books. And in the end, he was shaking hands with the officials that were there, and he did see us, and we held up our books, and we were like, JD, sign our books. And, you know, he did see us, and he smiled and kind of waved. I'm sure he's been instructed not to go near the crowd.
Got it.
But we hoped. Anyway.
What I was hearing.
And I want to tell people.
Go ahead, Anna. Finish that thought.
Oh, I just want to say, I want to tell people, if you've seen the movie, okay. But I'm telling you, that book, it's my first time reading it, that book is 10 times better than the movie. I learned things I did not know from that book. And he is, I think, the epitome of the American dream. And for anybody to put that man down, he served his country. He went to Yale Law School, even though he thought he couldn't go.
Yeah.
And by the way, he went to Ohio State first before he went to Yale.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the left is telling me that he was a misogynist. And as a woman who was there in his vicinity, did you get that sense today?
No, not at all. He's absolutely, you know, he talks about he related the whole fentanyl thing to his own children. I mean, these things look like candy, you know, and
right.
my son was a heroin addict. And when you have somebody who is addicted to drugs, you know that every day could be their last day. Yeah. And just, he gave the example of the woman from the RNC convention who lost her precious 15-year-old son because he just decided to try something one night, and he died. I mean, that's terrifying.
It is.
You know, so
it is. It's completely terrifying. And what a real convention that was. It wasn't Oprah and Little John. It was people whose lives have been affected by what's going on right now in our country. Thank you very much, Anna. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one more thing, too, which was the big – I hope the news got this one. He asked us, he says, I don't know if you watched Tim Walz, and everybody, including myself, was a big, loud no.
If you watched him – yeah. Oh, he asked the crowd that.
Yes, and everybody was like, no, we did not watch him. And he said, well, I watched him because it's my job, you know, and it was just the biggest laugh line. It was so good.
That's funny. That's actually, here you go. This is what you're talking about last night, or today, actually, in Georgia.
Walz's speech. Okay, good. I was going to lose a lot of respect for you if you had said yes. If you watched Tim Walz's speech, it's part of my job, so I had to. You know what he never did? He never once said, I know we've got some train noise in the background here, so I'll try to be loud, but he never He never. It's the Trump train. That's right, man. God bless you.
That's funny. Was that you, Anna, yelling out that it was the Trump train? It's pretty funny. I love it.
No, it was somebody across the way, but it was priceless. The timing was perfect.
I love it. It's so good. Well, Anna, thank you for that on-the-ground report today from the Peach State and that great rally with JD Vance. Thank you very much. Okay, I played some audio for you a few minutes ago from Trump's visit to the border. There was a woman there who had been attacked by an illegal alien in San Francisco and had her skull cracked. Her name's Amanda Kiefer. What I didn't or realized to share with you was the reason that illegal was out is because Kamala Harris released him during her time as district attorney in San Francisco. It was Kamala Harris specifically, not just Democrats broadly, but Kamala Harris specifically. She picked this idiot, this illegal foreign national, for her Back on Track program. They knew he was illegal. They refused to cooperate with the feds. It was a sanctuary city policy. They released this guy, and he fractures this poor woman's skull while he's robbing her. Just awful. President Trump highlighting that awful record. He also took some questions today. We'll see if we can't get to that. Yet another press conference out of Donald Trump. How many has Kamala Harris done since she's been the nominee? Oh, that's right. Zero. Coming up, Cheryl Chumley is with us from the Washington Times. The Democrats keep saying freedom. What do they mean by that? Hey, good afternoon to you. It is 4:35 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. Coming up on the program, Ryan Gerdusky is here. We'll talk to him about RFK Jr., set to drop out of the race tomorrow, apparently, and maybe endorse Trump, what it means for the rest of us. And you can join us today, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL.
My mother used to have a very funny story about I was fussing and she said, Kamala, what do you want? And I said, and this is how she would say it. And she said, Kamala, what do you want? And I said, freedom.
No.
Freedom! I want freedom! That never happened, by the way. That's a lie, that story. But freedom is apparently one of the themes during this Democrat convention and today. Pretty funny coming from a party that is locking up his political opponents. Here is Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro yesterday on this subject.
Kamala Harris, well, she has spent her entire career making progress. Donald Trump, a man with no guardrails, wants to take away our rights and our freedoms. And listen, while he cloaks himself in the blanket of freedom, what he's offering isn't freedom at all. Because hear me on this, it's not freedom to tell our children what books they're allowed to read.
What?
No, it's not. And it's not freedom to tell women what they can do with their bodies. And hear me on this, it sure as hell isn't freedom to say you can go vote, but he gets to pick the winner. That's not freedom.
What?
But you know what? You know what, Democrats? We are the party of real freedom.
Real freedom. Real freedom is tyranny. Cheryl Chumley joins us now. She's an opinion editor and host of the Bold and Blunt podcast for the Washington Times. Also the author of the book, Lockdown, the Socialist Plan to Take Away Your Freedom. Cheryl, always good to talk to you.
Hi, Vince. It's so great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So freedom, that's the big theme, according to Josh Shapiro and the Beyonce song and Kamala Harris. What do you make of Dems running on this?
Yeah, listening to him speak, it was so weird. And I heard you saying, what? Because I was doing the same thing in my mind, that the idea of freedom not being able to tell your children what to do. I mean, that's parental freedom right there. And It sort of reminded me of one step away from telling a would-be murderer that, yes, you have the freedom to go ahead and commit that crime. It's such an odd way of thinking, the Democrats. And for them to define what freedom in America is, that's a real danger, because we saw under COVID how Democrats and Democrat-controlled states and localities defined freedom, and it's really quite the opposite of what founding fathers defined freedom to be.
Yeah, I mean, during COVID, Tim Walz established a snitch line so that people could tell on their neighbors for not wearing masks or social distancing, and he deployed armed troopers to shoot people on their front porches with paintball guns. That doesn't sound like freedom to me.
No, and it's classic Democrat speak, right? They take a word that resonates with the American people, and then they redefine it to mean the exact opposite. And going back to COVID, because so much happened under COVID to show just how anti-freedom the Democrat Party is, they redefined not just what freedom is, right, but they redefined what patriot is, what patriotism is. They made it seem as if patriots in America have to obey the government blindly and wear the face mask and take the COVID shots. Joe Biden himself called that the patriotic duty, the patriotic thing to do. They redefined what vaccine and vaccination were, right, to mean not just something that would stop the spread of a certain disease or virus, but something that would perhaps maybe stop its spread. They redefined what it meant to be a Christian nationalist, to be something that was not based on founding fathers' intents for America, but based on racism and intolerance. So Democrats are very clever at taking a word that resonates and redefining it to mean something more Marxist.
Well, and they're allowing tens of millions of foreign nationals to illegally pour into our country. Why wouldn't they just redefine what it means to be American?
Well, they don't like the use of the word of illegals, right? So they are redefining basically what it means to be illegal in this nation. The latest one I saw today that I have a piece coming out tomorrow in the Washington Times about is the redefining of the word joy. They're pretending as if the Democrat Party is the party of joy. Vote for Kamala Harris. She will be the president of joy. Kamala Harris herself says she wants to govern strength through joy. Joy to Democrats means thuggery in the streets, setting police vehicles on fire, marching against the Constitution and everything America stands for, to set aside certain streets and make them off limits to police and citizens and throw Molotov cocktails. That's joy to Democrats.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of very happy events and gatherings. I never remember burning American flags and abortion trucks at them.
No, and it's just more of the Democrat propaganda machine at play. And we've seen this. This isn't new. We've actually seen this for the last 10, 20 years, but it just seems like it is ratcheted up in the blatant propaganda, because the Democrat Party really now has the media in their camp. The media has leaned left for some time now, mainstream media, but they are unabashedly open about the propaganda that's allowed to go forth in the media. Democrats can stand on a stage like the DNC convention here in Chicago and just spout breathtaking lies, and the media, for the most part, just nods and smiles at it. And so that's why the Democrats are allowed to redefine words this way.
They dutifully and brazenly carry their water. We saw it all. We've seen it all week. Like every night there's a different theme, and the media runs around echoing it as if it's the gospel truth, whether it's joy or electricity. They're all screaming at the same exact time. The big one last night was that Tim Walz and Dougie Emhoff have redefined masculinity. MSNBC, CNN, Reuters, all with either clips or pieces today, emphasizing that masculinity itself has been redefined by the left, Cheryl.
masculinity is femininity, right? I mean, and that goes along with the LGBTQ agenda, where you can be whatever you want to be, whatever sex you want to be. A boy can be a girl, and let's not even call them boy and girl. Let's make up pronouns and definers and so forth to label the sexes. And it's sort of that delusional way of thinking that the Democrats have pushed, not just to create what they define as free society and freedom, but basically in the end, it's a very Marxist intent. It's to generate chaos so that they themselves in politics, in the leftist-leaning Democrat Party, can come in and claim that they are the only ones able to control the chaos that results. So you have to keep that in mind. This is where that's headed.
It's a very abusive use of language. And Nancy Pelosi, for instance, was on MSNBC this morning, and she really is trying to whip her own base into an existential frenzy. She's making it seem like should the voters choose Trump, that he is the kind of tyrant that deserves to be attacked a la the British during the Revolutionary War. Take a listen to her this morning on MSNBC.
We have to defeat a person who is a threat to our democracy of the kind that we have not seen. At the beginning of our country, Thomas Paine said that times have found us.
5, 6,
declare war,
7, 8,
establish a new nation. Abraham Lincoln took up that charge to keep our country together years later, decades later, and now the times have found us to save our democracy. That is what we are here to do.
How dangerous is this kind of untethered demagoguery?
Well, I never like labeling language as dangerous because I think that plays into the Democrats' push to control narratives, right, and to censor and stifle thought and speech. But at the same time, if the Democrats are going to label Donald Trump's narrative as dangerous, then they need to look inward at their own, because the Democrat Party has been filled with years now with let's unleash the whirlwinds and, summers of resistance Nancy Pelosi has called for before. And Maxine Waters is out there. Get them at the streets. We got to stop the MAGA people, broach them in the stores and at their places of business. So their own narrative is really fueling the lunatic fringe within their own party. And you can see that as it plays out in real time on the streets, not just today in Chicago with the protesters, but over the last few years, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, go back to Occupy Wall Street.
Yes.
Even.
I agree with you. I mean, words themselves are not violence. They never have been. But if you're that irresponsible, you must know that there are people out there who are going to take you seriously. And maybe they don't think that, but somebody's going to take you seriously and act on it. I mean, we just watched as Donald Trump was shot in the head on July 13th by a guy who took a position on a roof and aimed at him and shot him. And today there's a manhunt underway in Arizona for someone who expressed his intention to do the same thing as Trump visits the border. And for Nancy Pelosi to go on television and to say that this is the same thing as, repelling King George and fighting the Revolutionary War, and should Trump come back into office, that's what it merits, that's disgraceful, I would say.
It's definitely disgraceful, and I was just watching with interest Trump speaking right before you and I went on air, and he's talking unity and so forth as the Arizona authorities are seeking out that suspect, as you described. And it's interesting to me that it's not only divisive and disgusting of Democrats to ratchet up this sort of narrative, but it also is a definite show of desperation, right? You're watching the convention, same as I am, and you're hearing all the fluff and soft and fuzzy and feel-good stuff, but you're not hearing anything about how they're going to accomplish what they say they want to accomplish, which, first off, I'm not even sure what they want to accomplish. I believe it's the total destruction of America because their actions over the last few years have shown that. But they're not being very open about what their endgame agenda is, except to say hope and change and that kind of feel-good stuff. Mm-hmm. But second off, how they might accomplish anything feel-good, hope, and change, we're very short on the details. And so there is some desperation there because Democrats under Joe Biden, same as under Barack Obama, don't have have much to point to in terms of actual successes. And so they have to create this narrative of being not Trump, and Trump is bad for America, and he will destroy America, and that's what they hope will drive their voting bases.
I hope people don't fall for it. I really do. Cheryl Chumley over at the Washington Times, thank you so much for your time today, as always.
Thank you, Vince.
Good to talk to you. That's Cheryl Chumley. Over on CNN, there's a conservative commentator by the name of Scott Jennings. And I think here on this program, we keep playing clips from him because, I don't know, this guy, don't you think he's kind of battle-tested? He seems to be like the only voice of reason on any of these panels, and he keeps on bringing up things like, hey, idiots, the emperor's wearing no clothes. Everything you're being served is a lie. There's a whole bunch of people sitting in a convention space, well, actually an arena at the Democrat convention, who are being lied to, and they're happy about it. They're thrilled that they're being lied to. Last night, in the wake of so many of these awful speeches filled with ridiculous platitudes told to the party faithful, here was Scott Jennings last night reacting.
This guy is nobody tonight said anything. Nobody tonight said a damn thing. They want you to vote for a ticket based on absolutely no concrete idea about what they would do once they get in office. You said he got more progressive when he got elected governor. So you're saying every time he gets another office, he gets more and more progressive. I think that's exactly what would happen. Tonight you did hear people say, well, we may not agree with them on everything, but at least it'll be joyful as they tax us into oblivion. I think the idea that you could run an entire presidential campaign based on the idea of vote for me to find out what's in it.
Wait a minute,
Scott, terrify every American.
Yeah, fantastic. Excellent. He's like, look, none of these people are saying anything. They're all like, everyone's raving about it. You know, you have Van Jones is getting tingles up and down his leg. And this guy's going, nothing is happening here. What are you, serious? You're cheering this on? And it's not like we don't know what it would look like to have Kamala Harris in the White House. We have that. It's crap. Boo. Let's not do that again. In a moment, a former CNN guy, not that impressed by all of the Democrats and their eat the rich rhetoric. He's like, really? Because when I look up at the rafters here, looking down at us from the boxes, there's a lot of rich people. They paid $2 million a box. We'll talk about that in just a moment. I told you President Trump was taking some questions. He took a couple of questions at the end of his remarks on the border alongside the families of the fallen, people killed by illegal aliens in this country. An important event today, but one of the questions that was put to him was whether or not he was aware of the manhunt that was underway for the person who threatened to kill him in Arizona. Listen to this. Apparently nobody even told Trump. Trump is at this event on the border, and he was unaware of this manhunt. Here he is today.
Death threats to you. Did you county? Somebody made death threats to you. Did you hear about that before coming?
No.
What are your thoughts coming down here? Some people told me it's dangerous for you to be here.
I've heard it's dangerous, but I also have a job to do. I heard it's very dangerous. I haven't heard about that. They probably want to keep it from me. Thank you for telling me. Let's get out of here right now.
He kept going, though. But that's so somebody raises the question, hey, what about this manhunt for the guy who's trying to kill you? It's like, yeah, nobody told me about that. So there he is on the border. Nobody clued him in on that particular detail. You may want to tell him. Maybe not. Maybe that's the point. They don't want to tell him. It's awful. It's awful. So that happened today. Let's see here. I've got Mike calling in from Washington, D.C., line 2. Hello, Mike. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, good show as usual, man. I really did enjoy the segment that you did about the Democrats trying to redefine male masculinity. I really did enjoy that. Are you familiar with the cartoon character Pepe Le Pew?
Pepe Le Pew, yes. He's always trying to work over the female skunks. I'm aware.
Yeah. You remember there was a time when the Democrats, they had a problem with that, with this cartoon character. They said he had too much male masculinity, and they wanted to get him banned.
I remember that.
Which was laughable. Yeah, and remember, do you remember the rifleman who was a strong masculine male, was a single man raising his son and always carried a rifle around protecting his family?
I don't remember that one. No. Sounds good, though.
You never seen the rifleman?
The rifleman was the symbol of... Yeah, go ahead. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it was a show, black and white series, an old Western series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Chuck Connors, he played the role of the rifleman. He was a single man raising his son.
I just looked. That show ended in 1963. Just a touch before my time.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, it still come on the what's that? Me TV shows it all the time.
Oh, okay. Got it. A little reruns. Yeah. So the left was unhappy about the rifleman?
Oh, yeah, because he was too masculine. You know they don't like guns. So, that was one of the problems right there.
That's definitely one of the problems, Mike. Thank you. Mike doesn't like the left trying to redefine masculinity. He stands up for the rifleman and Pepe Le Pew like a great American. Love Pepe. Hey, coming up, Ryan Gerdusky will be with us as RFK Jr. is set to drop out of the presidential race. How much will it change things? We'll ask Ryan next.